All right, all right. What's happening, my dudes? I don't know if you can hear me. Somebody confirm in the audio. Last week, we started the stream without audio, so we should be good. What are we doing today? We are just chilling, listening to some Metal Gear music, which is, it's important to note that we're doing the Metal Gear music for reasons, because I'm doing my live stream, or not live stream, but my gameplay videos recently. So I thought, yeah, I'll just do some Metal Gear music. I thought that would be cool, just while we're jamming, while we're drawing. Hey, how's it going, guys? I'll let people kind of dial in. I am going to be, the way I want to structure it, first of all, yeah, please do confirm that the audio is good. Anybody? The way I want to do it is we're initially going to do mostly just drawing, because I'm jamming on this. I am jamming on this book and making good progress. It's all remaster, so mostly just what you're going to be watching me do is like the painting process. And we're going to hang out. We're going to talk about games. We're going to talk about some gaming news. By the way, dudes, I went onto Twitter to let people know, just to let folks know that I'm going to be doing some live streaming. And of course, you pick up the news, and Twitter is a dangerous place to go right before you do a live stream. Don't buy Bitcoins, cryptocurrencies. It's gambling. Please don't do that. Can you guys hear these dope Metal Gear sounds we got showing? Well, it's, hang on, let me pump up the volume. This is the fear. I'm gonna have to adjust volume throughout. Last week, I listened to it. I listened to my live draw after my whole live stream thing after I did it. And I was like, man, you can't hear what I'm saying, because the audio, the music was kind of like drowning out some of the rest of the audio. And so it made it kind of like hard to discern. When I'm doing my recordings, so that you know, if I do audio, it's usually on a separate audio track. So it always sounds a little bit clearer. Good to see you guys, by the way. I'm just kind of peeking over at the chat here and there. I'm going to be just peeking over while I'm doing mostly painting again today. Reason being, last week was super productive. Last Saturday was super productive. I got to hang out with you guys a little bit. It was generally a positive response to the just live drawing, as opposed to me just sitting and reading comments. So that's why I want to give this a little bit more, productive all around. Do you know what I'm saying? So go with maximum productivity. Oh, this is a good track. Let me turn it up. Oh, it's like a cappella. Snake Eater. Really good news. I got my PlayStation 2 emulator working on my GPD Win 2. So this is really good news, because I just finished playing Metal Gear Solid 1 on the PS1, and you're going to get some more videos for that. I broke it up into like 1.5 hour long videos, so there's just like 3 or 4 more. Those are coming out. I try to do them in between the art videos, because I know most people are tuning in for the art, and I get that. You're like, what's this? Why is Trent playing this old game? Well, I'm a game enthusiast. I love games, and I want to play them. I want to play games with you. So why not? but I'm trying to leave it so that like the last video that you always see on my channel is an art video. So if I go for like 2 or 3 days, it's not like, hey, here's a playthrough of Metal Gear. I kind of joke about it while I'm doing the gameplay. I'll joke about how we're a gaming channel now, but hopefully you guys know I'm just playing. I'll always be doing art here. Don't worry. That's not going away. You don't need to unsubscribe. The reason why it's so exciting that I got my PlayStation 2 emulator going is because I want to finish the Solid Snake story. I want to do, like, it's been probably 12 years since I've played Sons of Liberty, which is Metal Gear Solid 2, and that is the direct sequel to Metal Gear Solid 1. So I thought it would be really neat if I did, you know, the whole Solid Snake saga before moving on, before going into Snake Eater and the subsequent Big Boss storyline. For those of you who don't know, they jumped around a lot with the main character in that series for reasons which I will not go into because this isn't about Metal Gear. Dudes, thanks for stopping by. We're getting a few more people coming in. I hope you guys are drawing. You're going to draw with me. Explaining a little bit of what I'm doing, just so that you can get an idea. I've concealed all of this information. I want to keep it somewhat of a spoiler-free exploration into, you know, how I'm doing some of the remasters on these pages for CreeD Reimaginary. I've already laid down some basic colors, and now I'm just kind of going over the top to reimagine the colors. We're doing a remaster on this, and that's obviously, as you can see on the screen, coming to Indiegogo. Well, we're going to be launching it next Sunday. Ethan and I have a live stream planned on his channel. There's a lot of comic book fans over there, and so it seemed like a good way to join forces. And I'm going to do something special on my channel too. Maybe some kind of, it might be pre-recorded. I can't live stream on both. I don't know how. I'm not that tech savvy. But CreeD Reimaginary is almost here. And I'm going to tell you guys something. You're not going to have to wait too long. I don't want to overpromise, but I will say that the progress that I've made on the book is extraordinary. I've been a little bit stressed out about it because I like to be ahead of schedule, not behind. I've got another video about how to keep your work on schedule coming up here in the next week as well, which is also, if you guys don't know, the videos I make are also reminders to myself. I'm not perfect at everything, all the advice that I give people. I'm always working on these things too, and just how to make myself more productive and efficient. Yeah. I hope everybody's having a great weekend. I myself have been a little bit, something's been going on with me, and I don't know what it is, but I'm kind of like, I might be fighting off a cold or something because I just keep taking naps. Like, I think it's because I'm staying up until 3 a.m. working on my comic after I finish my contract work every day. And I think it's just taken its toll. So my advice to other people is always, hey, you know, prioritize your health, you know, but at the same time, like, I know, like, it's difficult because when you got a deadline and you're really trying to hit that deadline, sometimes it feels like you want to just sacrifice more than what you might have thought you were capable of doing. But I don't know. Hopefully I'll just get stronger, like lifting weights, you know. Like, the more you draw, the stronger you get, the more you can power through those burnout days. I do really appreciate you guys allowing me to indulge myself and get more of my artwork done here on my channel. I know it's For some people, they would prefer if I'm just answering career advice questions, but I do still base all of my our advice videos on comments that pop into the feed, and also from comments and challenges that people are facing on the Discord. So if there's things that you want to know, I do want to encourage you to keep popping those questions in there, because I'm going to need a lot of content. I'm going to need a lot of ideas for new videos. So, but drop them into the normal comments of any video. I don't exactly get to see all of the comments. The comments in live streams race by so fast, it's hard to see them unless they stand out. So what am I doing here? So this is all a new layer, and you can kind of see like this light right here is what you would call kind of like a rim light, and it's coming in from off camera a little bit over here. And so I found that if you give it a little bit of this like saturated edge too, you can get a very nice kind of a glowy effect that makes it look like the light's really bouncing. I'm going to try to be a little less confusing about the layers this time. Even though I've got all this stuff going on underneath, I'm literally just painting on the layer on top. Did you guys get a chance to watch that Metal Gear reunion with the voice actors this week? If you haven't, if you're a fan of that game, it was a lot of the original cast from the 1998 version got together and did they did like a Skype call kind of a thing. Just it's nothing crazy. I felt like they were dropping hints about something maybe coming up, but sorry, I'm listening to Metal Gear and I'm like just finished Metal Gear, so that's going to be the topic of some discussion in these videos or in this stream. Yeah, check it out. It's you can do a search for it. Just search for Metal Gear voice actor reunion 2021. It's really nice because I'd never seen some of them. I've never seen some of the actors. Like I didn't know what the voice actress that played Sniper Wolf looked like, and that was really neat. And they kind of redid some lines and speculated about speculated about their characters. Things like that. Because I'm working on a layer on top, by the way, some comic book artists will really not like this process, but I'm kind of doing a very digital process because it's a remaster of some pages that I had done previously. This is a reworked page. Because of that, I'm able to just do all of this on the layer above. And I know like it might be very confusing to some people who are very structured with their layers. Like some people will do their, just to give you an idea, like I have all of my line art on one layer. So this is a bit of a recap, but just for, bear with me if you guys already know this, just so that other people can understand. Let's say that you had all your line art scanned and this was all drawn on paper and then you scanned it in. If you set this to multiply as I have here, then you can color underneath that, and that's probably like the standard way of coloring comics. I'm using my watercolor brush, so it gets a little bit of that fun stuff in there. But ideally you would want to paint under the lines, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. You guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway, it preserves that line art very cleanly, which is cool. It's very cool. So I would recommend that you color with your. I actually got this layer on too, so it's getting this with some other colors. I don't want to confuse you though, so yeah, just color your line or color underneath your line art, and then you could do like blues. I cover this. I feel like I cover this every week. So guys, if you already know this, I'm sorry. I hate to be so redundant, but I'm inevitably going to get, 200 people in the comments saying, how do you color line art? So I just want to make sure that I cover it. Okay. So you see how, because this is set to multiply, it's just maintaining the black, but I'm able to color underneath it. Okay. Now that we're all caught up, we're all on the same page, I can delete that layer and go right back to where I was. There we go. Okay. And what I'm doing is I'm actually on top of all of that, and I'm painting on top of my lines so that you can't, how do I say this? Like, yeah, I can paint over the line work itself. Yeah. Mr. Varflock wanted to know why do the characters in CreeD all have 4 fingers? You can see here he has 4 fingers. She has 4 fingers. Actually, that's a good, thanks for pointing that out. In this case, she should only have 4 in this specific case. So this is explained in the story. It's not something that I want to explain in a live stream, but they're not, like when you ask, the Calvin and Hobbes creator, like why do his characters have 4 fingers? I don't think anybody asks, but because he's like a cartoon character, right? Like a fantasy cartoon character. But with CreeD, it was actually, I think it started out that way, but then I was like, I'm just kind of neurotic and I wanted to explain it. And I think people started asking me that. Nobody asked me that until about 5 years ago, which tells me that there's like trends in the way that what people find acceptable in art. Like, why does CreeD have big feet? People didn't even ask me that in the 90s, but now they ask it. Why does CreeD why are his hands as big as his face sometimes? Well, the answer is, of course, it's in a dream world, so things get distorted and skewed. However, I did explain it very specifically to these characters in this particular book. So that's why this book is like a great starting point. It's sort of like the origin story of the character and like why he is the way he is, how he built the alliances that he has. What is the dream world? My buddy Matt read it and he's like, I never knew what the dream world was until I read this book. And it does kind of go into some philosophical stuff. This book is like, I'd say 15% emo, 15.2% emo, slightly existential comedy, I would call it almost, but because it's also very comedic at times. But a lot of, like, for instance, the scenes that I'm drawing right now are very action-packed. Yeah. So I don't know if that explains, I think, why he has 4 fingers. Not all characters do. People in the real world, for instance, Walter has a normal number of digits on his hand. The irony, and one of the things that I actually really like about CreeD, and I hope I can do more because I want to explain some of these things more, but one of the things I like about it is that the character, like, crazy shit happens in this book. Like, he has a frog, a pet frog, CJ, who turns into a freaking dragon, okay? And he torches bullies at his school. Like, he's basically got this dragon protector, right? And nobody cares. Like, nobody notices him. And that's actually kind of a commentary on just how, I would like to say, like, how it feels like sometimes you're just screaming into the void. Like, you're doing these crazy things, you're doing these amazing things. You could be doing something that's literally impossible and insane, and nobody would even notice. That's just kind of where we've come to, because we're so inundated with unbelievable things. Like, you can't go on Twitter without reading about alien societies or something, and like some guy from some government that's that's saying, no, that's real. It's like, oh yeah, okay. It really wouldn't surprise me. It'd just be like another news flash. That's just where we are. And the main character kind of deals with some depression because of that. somewhat, in the same way that I would kind of escape from reality in my youth to escape some of that moodiness of being a teenager. That's kind of common. Everybody goes through that. So it's good to get lost in fiction, but unfortunately, no matter how crazy and fantastical things happen to Mark Farley, no one believes any of it. And so they don't even notice that he has 4 digits. They don't even notice that his frog turned into a dragon, except for the people who got torched. But even like when they explain it, nobody notices or cares because they're just not listening anymore. Nothing's too absurd. Yeah, I know. Just to be clear about the streams, I'm doing these every Saturday now, and it's part of it is also. Well, I want to show you guys some things that I'm doing. Obviously, part of it is also. I'm just trying to keep my chops up. I used to stream all the time. I streamed artwork. By the way, if the music gets too loud, sometimes it feels like it's so loud. I feel like those horns are coming in. Okay, dude. It's supposed to be calm soundtrack of Metal Gear, but I'm getting like super loud horns going on. Yeah. Yeah. Does that sound okay? Yeah. And somebody in the chat asked, where do I get the ideas for drawings that I'm doing? Well, this is a story. This is a story. So this particular scene came from the necessity of the character overcoming his big problem. And so like, I've done a few videos about story building, but every drawing that I do has a story. Even the concept art that I do, it was always a little unnatural for me to design things for somebody else's story. I never felt like I was, and it's weird. It's weird when I was working in games, I'd say like in studios, I always kind of felt like I was writing my own concepts, like writing my own stories for the areas that I was designing. There were a lot of times when I'd be kind of given a task, but I'd end up kind of writing a lot of lore for it and then talking with the writer on the games that I wasn't writing anyway. I'd talk with the lead story builder or world builder, whatever title they had on that game. And I try to work it out with them so that it was something that was collaborative. It was something where it was like, I kind of, helping them do their job, and they'd help me out too. They'd make it work, so it was definitely like a lot of teamwork. When you're collaborating, when you're working with people, you really have to balance that desire to want to make it the way you want to make it. And that's not always easy to do. With CreeD, it's kind of nice because it's really based on the story that I want to tell. It's completely, I'm writing this one entirely myself. So, I mean, to some extent, it's a remaster. So I'm like completely rewriting entire scenes. And in some ways, I'm kind of collaborating with myself from 10 years ago a little bit. And he had some just wonky ideas. Like, what the hell, dude? What were you thinking? Things that I don't think made much sense, but at the same time, hey, you do you, man. Which is me saying you do you to myself from 10 years ago. The stories themselves come from things that I'm seeing going on in the world around me, things that I'm seeing. Like every story should have a purpose and a meaning. Sometimes subliminal, sometimes very overt. I think with like Twilight Monk, Secrets of Kung Fulio, it's very much a message about the short version of it is it's a story about taking on, like, if you want to be the hero, you're going to have to take on this huge responsibility, and it's impossible for people to know all angles of a situation. So it's a little bit of that dilemma. The main character really wants to be the hero of the world, but like he's he's not the best judged and not the most skilled either, but like he wants that, you know. And so it's about him kind of finding wisdom, I guess you'd say, in situations when it seems so obvious between what's right and wrong. You know, I think a real heroic character will have to sometimes not do anything. That's not something I've seen really addressed in many fictions. You don't see Batman going, well, maybe I better just let things happen. But you'd have to read it to understand what I mean. That's the best elevator pitch I've ever heard, Trent. Good job. With CreeD is about, I'm being sarcastic, but CreeD is about not throwing away the old. And it's also like the things that you create take on a life of their own. So CreeD is about a kid who creates a dream world. He creates a whole world of imaginary friends, and he builds it not alone. He builds it with this character. This is Lainey. And this is, I mean, you know, it's based on exactly what I was talking about earlier, so it seems relevant to discuss it. The challenge of collaboration. Sometimes the person that you create a thing with, they want to throw it away and start over. And in a weird way, it's kind of funny because I'm reimagining the story itself, but it's her wanting to reimagine the dream world that they made together. And that means throwing away the old. And this is sort of like sort of digging into the value of the things that you create from the past, which is also like me coming back to a dream world, a comic, and a whole, you know, cast of characters that I haven't touched in 10 years. I haven't drawn a CreeD comic in 10 years. So yeah, so there's that. But simultaneously also, you know, giving a bit more clarity to, you know, why the character can create anything that he can imagine in the dream world. And yeah, so that's really where this particular story is coming from. Also relevant to some of my own experiences. So yeah, my advice to young writers is always to write something based on your own personal experiences. If you're struggling with something right now, something that you're seeing wrong in the world, it seems unfair, it seems wrong, or even just some of your own struggles, some of your own challenges. Like when I started CreeD, it was really about struggling with schoolwork, and it was struggling with popularity and trying to stand out. And like because I was literally in high school when I made it, when I created it, like the old stuff, I mean. And what I found was like nothing else like that. People really liked it because it was unlike anything else, unlike what other people were doing, you know. So always write from a place of like your own experiences, or this is just my advice, by the way, or something that you're just really interested in. Like the guy that wrote The Martian just had an obsession with like living on foreign planets, like the science behind that. And so he wrote it into his book. It worked really well. So all of the research he was doing was, you know, relevant to the story he was writing. So like when you're an artist, I think that you're also kind of a writer, or at least a storyteller. If you're doing something unique, then I think you should work in story. Story dictates what you draw. I might be zoomed in too far. When I look at, if you can see pixels, you might be zoomed in too far. This is only going to print at 300 DPI. It's not like it's, it's not like it's going to be wall-sized pages or anything like that. Oh, one of the questions in the chat was, how has CreeD changed from your original idea from high school? Ah, man. Okay, so in a lot of ways, and that's actually been a really difficult challenge, because I'm trying to write like I used to write, but it's been a while since I've been in high school, man. And like, everything's so different now. I've written since high school. I've written a couple of video games. I've written several novels, or at least short novels, and several comics. I'd say probably throughout my comic book career, I've written probably about 40 comics, maybe 50. So the concept of CreeD, I mean, certainly my understanding of how to tell a good story has changed. There always has to be, a little bit more resolve in the end. When I used to write CreeD, I would really just write about it almost like stream of consciousness. It was almost like weird poetry, like just whatever I felt like I wanted to say, and sometimes they were just straight up love letters to, between characters, you know what I mean? Like, I was a bit of I was the kind of kid who was just always lost in thought and kind of like found a love for words, and so like sometimes I get carried away with that, and that's what CreeD was. And in some ways, like, it's nothing at all like Twilight Monk, for instance, where like Twilight Monk was all about action and kung fu and like punching dragons in the face and like just really kick-ass stuff. And I do want to do more of that too, but CreeD is a little bit more introspective. It's a little bit more philosophical. It's a little bit more Zen. What CreeD was when I was a teenager, I would say, is I had created CreeD out of a little bit of a sense of despair, I guess you'd say, like a feeling of not belonging. And we're seeing the character struggle with that a lot, or we were back then. Now it's a little bit more of just a fun dream world adventure, where I'm tying in a lot more of like things that are going on in his real life to the plot points and to the dreamscape, to the challenges he's facing in this world that's created from his subconscious mind, I guess you'd say. And a lot of my understanding of psychology has worked its way into the story as well. I had no idea just how Zen so many of those early concepts were, and I didn't understand them, but I do think that there's like a kind of a universal symbolism that humans are subconsciously tapped into that we might not even realize, because I was tapping into Zen and almost like Buddhist philosophy, like Zen philosophy, with a lot of the symbolism of things that I was creating, even though not from a religious standpoint, just from a philosophical standpoint about purpose and meaning. And then also, if you dig into like theories about dream symbolism, I've done a lot more research on it in the last since I started it. When I was in high school, I did zero research on dreams and what they meant. Zero. I find out later in my life that like, oh yeah, maybe that was representing this thing going on in my life. Everything was kind of a caricature of things that I was going through in my real life. So for instance, I'll talk about it. Inside scoop on CreeD here. So I had this friend who drew a comic book about a frog, big cybernetic frog. And he was like my best bud. We were super tight. And but I was always a little intimidated by him because he's an intimidating fellow, and you don't want to upset the guy. So the character CreeD has a pet frog who's like his best bud, who turns into a freaking dragon and torches people. So the symbolism of I guess you'd say it's sort of metaphorical, was very much, and I didn't even realize that I was doing this, by the way. It was just, metaphors and symbology, like just working its way into the fiction. But so the character sort of represented a unstable trust, I guess you'd say, which ironically, like as that relationship with my friend got better, I stopped writing stories about the conflict between the frog in the comic, ironically, and what was going on with the what was going on in my real life as that conflict was no longer really a conflict. And what you're going to find is, like, I've got a couple of stories that I want to do after this book. Hopefully we can do a book 3 and a book 4. If CreeD is a huge success, then hopefully we can do more, and there's a lot more stories, just, things that I think they're pretty relatable things, though. It's like, I'm sure we've all had friends where it's like, oh man, I really, like, we're really super tight, but then, like something happens and it feels like I just don't even know them anymore. And it almost feels like they hate you or something. And it's like, that's going to work its way into the fiction of the characters in CreeD, the things that you deal with in your real life. And I don't know, that's just my personal approach to how I write CreeD stories. Twilight Monk had a little bit of that, but it was a lot less, I guess you'd say, overt. Twilight Monk was a lot less overt. Twilight Monk, I always just wanted to be like my kung fu action adventure, whereas CreeD was, I think one of the reasons why I actually stopped doing it was it got a little too personal. I was surprised to see how many people could relate to the character, though. Oh, one of the things with the reboot, CreeD is a 17-year-old comic book artist now. And that was something that wasn't the case back in the day, but now he's actually chronicling his adventures in a comic book. So it's even more, I guess you'd say, autobiographical. So he's going to face some of the things that I faced from having a very successful, indie comic. Like, how is CreeD going to handle that? And like, what's he going to go through? It's going to cause some problems with his relationships with his friends. He's like a social outcast in high school. And then suddenly he's like a famous comic book superstar. Like, that's going to cause some problems with his relationships. Hopefully it'll still be relatable, but I think a character written well, it doesn't matter like what they go through. What matters is how they react to it. I feel like I've just gone on with this whole thing about CreeD. If you wanted to read CreeD, they're still available. There were probably, I think there were about 25 issues of CreeD, and there were a couple that were never released that I just did. And then I got a job in games, and it's really hard to do both full-time, comics and games. I talked a little bit about that in some of my recent videos. I feel like we might need some different jams. I don't know how I'm feeling about the, give me some soundtrack suggestions. Should we go Final Fantasy? That might be more suitable for CreeD because it's kind of whimsical, kind of fantasy. I've been recently playing a lot of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. When I say a lot, I mean like an hour a night, maybe. Something like that. It's really good. Oh, it's good. Because simultaneously I'm watching the TV show Vikings. If you guys haven't seen it. It's brutal. Oh my gosh. Everybody's a villain in that show. I'm in season 1, no spoilers. That actor just plays a psycho so well. It's the same guy from Raised by Wolves. Or he's in it, the main character, Ragnar, also plays a psycho in Raised by Wolves. Hey, Billy Baxco's here. How's it going, man? Thanks for stopping in. Yeah, the live stream schedule, I want to keep this up. I want to keep doing Saturdays. It's a fun, productive, chill out, drawing time with you guys. Are you participating? Is everybody in the live stream chat? Is everybody here participating in the February concept art challenge? This one's going to be good. We're doing Overwatch skin designs. Hell yeah. Love the characters from Overwatch. It's pretty flexible because I didn't want to be too specific. I didn't want to be like, hey, let's all redesign May skin or something, or a Widow skin. I didn't want to do that. I wanted it to be very free because everybody's kind of got their favorite characters, and it should be fun. It should be something that you feel like not too constrained by. Although if you were, working for a client, you'd probably they'd be very specific about who they need skins for. But I try to design the challenges to be something that you could put in your portfolio. If you make something that you're really particularly proud of. Was Ragnar in the Warcraft movie? No kidding. Huh. I didn't even know that. Who did he play? I liked that movie. Somebody in chat was asking why are my comic book characters not as detailed? Dude, this is one panel. Why are my characters in my comic not as detailed as the characters of what you see in my art books, for instance? Yeah, part of it is because you draw. Okay, imagine that you had to draw paint a character with 15,000 little pieces. Let me see if I could pull it up real quick. What's my master clue drawing? Actually, any of my master drawings. I'm gonna pull it up on screen here. Oh no! Come on, man. Maybe I'm trying to get a high res image of it. Sorry, I'm on my own Twitter, trying to pull an image so I can show you what he's talking about. So this, why don't my comic pages look like this? With this kind of level of detail and everything. Part of it is because this is a remaster of an old book. And the second part is that I'm working on it. There are some pages in this book that are extremely detailed. Let me pull up one of the recent pages. I feel like I'm on the defensive now because you said that. Yeah, these pages are freaking detailed, man. What are you talking about? Like, there's a lot going on there. Part of it is also, I mean, it's a different style, the book. Twilight Monk is a lot more about kung fu fantasy action. So you got a lot of like super yoked, muscly dudes. Trying to find another example. There's a lot of really detailed pages here. Yeah. Anyway. Nice. See, this is why if I look at chat, I get distracted. See? Yeah. The biggest reason is because if one of those drawings takes me 12 hours to do, and it's just one panel, okay, so you're looking at what, 20 hours, because I'm doing the colors as well. If I were to spend 20 hours per page, right? Let's say that I spent 20 hours per page. The math on that doesn't really add up to make it worthwhile unless the book makes like a really good profit, because you're going to spend a whole year working on your book. You have to think in terms of budget all the time. And I was probably like I was talking with Eric Canetti about this. When I was in my 20s, it was like, nah, I'll just spend as long as it takes to make the most amazing comic pages ever. But then the problem is like, if your book isn't making enough to justify that, you're essentially, well, you're going to become bitter. You're going to put so much work into it that people aren't going to notice. And then, of course, you know, I don't want to go into it other than to just say it needs to be cost effective to the project and the budget and the amount of time that you get to work on the whole thing. Otherwise, you're going to blow your deadlines, and then it doesn't matter, you know, how good it is. Now, my friend Ethan, his book made $1 million on his Indiegogo campaign. Okay, if my book makes $1 million, I will go in and spend a week on every page. If your book is making that kind of money, then you can afford to put that kind of time into it. But I'm working 4 jobs, man. It sounds like I'm workaholic. I think it's always a balance. It's like, how do I make this look the best I can make it with the budget of time and the budget of energy that I have, and also knowing that like what people really are going to be wanting is like another CreeD book after this. They're going to be wanting the next story, and I've already spent, I think, 4 months, maybe 5 months reworking this book, and that's a lot more than I had initially planned to do. But that's why I say it's not just a remaster. It's not just like putting a fresh coat of paint on it. Like I'm literally adding in entire, 8-page fight sequences, and they're fully painted, and those take a lot of time. And so I'm looking at, this is a 2-book thing. Like I'm releasing 2 48-page books. So seeing the level of detail, I think, across the board, I would love to set a new standard with that, but I have to be realistic to the budget of the project, and we'll see how that campaign goes. If it goes nuts, then I'm going to go nuts on the pages. If all I had to do was work on a CreeD book for a year, hey man, you betcha I'm going to go in there and paint the hell out of that thing. But otherwise, I've got to find that balance between what looks hype and what tells a really great story. Before anything else, I think, remember that it doesn't matter how good it looks if the story is bad or it's not communicating what's happening, then it doesn't matter how good it looks. Although, to be fair with comics, sometimes people do buy them just for the art, but I think it's not going to stand the test of time. It needs to be a good story too. And it needs to, when I say good story, I'm talking about how the panels flow, and I'm talking about like, is it easy to read? Is it fun to read? you know. It's one thing that I really admire about, like Mike Mignola, for instance. He has the perfect blend of like really compelling panel flow that makes you go like, oh wait, what are they doing here? Oh, what's that item that he's got? And like you do feel the emotion between scenes, you know, but it's also like just a really well written story, and it's no more and no less than what it needs to be a great story. And I think that's the goal with comic books, which is different than like making an art book where the goal is about making every piece just slamming. Do you know what I mean? Like every page needs to sell that art book because that's what people are buying it for. They're buying it for the art. With a comic, I think people still buy them for the stories and for the world and for the scenarios, and those need to be conveyed well. I would much rather have a very simply drawn comic that's a really great story than a comic that's just nuts with detail but a forgettable or awful story. Because I mean, that to me is just an art book. Just do an art book, dude. Just do an art book. It's just about the detailed art. Furthermore, keep in mind, if you do a super detailed, crazy ass detailed character, you got to draw that from all kinds of angles. When you're doing concept art, usually you don't have to draw a character or an armor set more than once or twice, unless if you're an illustrator. So that's a very long-winded answer to that question, I think. I'm not really doing a lot of tricks with this book. I mean, I am, but when I was doing the Twilight Monk comic, I had sheets full of character heads. So that, and I did most of the second book digitally entirely, I think. And so I would do these things where I would just have like, I would reuse a character's headshot, but I would change the lighting on it and change the emotion. So you just get this crazy amount of mileage out of your art. And I was doing like, I think I'd do a page in 3 hours on average. And then I used a lot of pre-drawn effects to really speed that up. It's one of the things I wanted to cover in my comic book workshop that I'm working on. Yeah, I'm still working on that. It's just going very slow because I'm trying to prioritize finishing this book. I've been documenting all of this, by the way. This entire development of CreeD Reimaginary is being documented and recorded so that I can do these long form commentaries on them, which you can get on my 2021 box set. That's actually separate from the comic book workshop, but I think it does shed a lot of light on the processes and whatnot. Does manga sell better than American comics? You know, that topic can burn a few butts if some people can be very upset about even discussing such a thing. I think that there's a few advantages to both. I think just in discussing the differences. Now, by the way, I fall right in the middle. I think CreeD and Twilight Monk have a little bit of manga influence. They always have, ever since, well, before I even knew what manga was. I had never bought a manga until 2000 and, that's not true. I bought anime in like 98, 97 or 98. You used to have to go to this place called Media Play, and in the Midwest. And Media Play was like this, it's kind of like a Best Buy kind of a thing, or like a Circuit City. You guys don't know what that is. Most people don't know what Circuit City is. What the hell are you talking about, man? What is this? Alternate dimension? No, it's the past, man. Anyway, this place basically, they sold VHSs of imported, Media Play was one of the only places that sold VHSs of imported anime. So like that's how I got my hands on Gunsmith Cats and of course Evangelion. That was like the thing. Did not get into Dragon Ball, and I never got a chance to. I recently tried to, so I played the RPG game. But anyway, differences between manga and American comics. I think that with manga, they certainly focus a lot more on storytelling and panel flow, and American comics tend to sell a lot more heroic pinup type of imagery. But I don't think that that's true for all American comic book readers. But I do think that if you want to sell a popular American superhero comic, you have to have those big, full page shots of them like flying around their cape and, these crazy like detailed city shots and things like that. Whereas I don't think that that's a prerequisite or a requirement for, manga. I think with manga, first of all, it comes out way more frequently, which I actually liked, but I feel like it's overwhelming. Like, try to sit down and read Naruto. Dude, you got to set aside a chunk of your life to read Naruto. And you might even forget where you were if you stop for a week. And then furthermore, or if you stop for a month or two. And then furthermore, like, it's expensive. It's going to cost you a lot. But there are a lot of people who just, watch it for free online. And I think that that's not a sustainable market in the US. Now, they can kind of do that a little bit with manga, because with manga, they've got two markets. The Japan market will buy manga, and the American market will buy manga. If you make an American comic, it'll sell very poorly in Japan. So I do wonder if we're at a bit of a weird, well, certainly we're at a weird time with comic books right now, where, comics are trying to decide what they want to be, and everybody's kind of got a lot of different ideas on what that should be. I do kind of agree with a lot of the sentiment recently that corporate comic books need to change what they're doing. It's not good for the artists. It's not good for the consumers. It's not good for the industry. But at the same time, like, do I have an answer for that? I don't know. I mean, I'm not even publishing my next book. I'm going with a publisher that knows how to sell books. And I agree with All Caps philosophy that it should be this just gorgeous, like, high quality, fat book that's a complete, something that you just gush when you get it in the mail. I want that. I don't necessarily want to do something that's like, 200 pages of a black and white thing. Like, at least with CreeD, I want to do it. I want to follow the same format that All Caps is really established with Snowman and Cyberfrog. I feel like that's, as a collector and as somebody that has a lot of value for the art books that I have, I want to make that. I want to make something that you feel like when you get it in the mail, it's a treasure. It's not something that's like just another episode with like a fill-in by a different artist. It's like straight from the creator's vision, and also to feel that connection with the creator, that you supported it, you helped make it happen. There's something there, who knows though? Everybody's kind of got a different idea on what comics should be, and it's kind of like a new frontier right now. New opportunities to try new formats and new ways of doing things. I want to find a way for comic book stores to survive in the US. I hope that there's a solution there that doesn't involve abandoning all that's been built. That sounds super emo with this song going. This is it's like a nostalgic Metal Gear track going on while I'm talking about this. Why are we still here? Just to suffer. Every night. Can feel my leg. Yeah. Sorry, this is a very famous Metal Gear track from Phantom Pain. if you haven't seen it, and if you even kind of halfway like military games, not like your Call of Duties, but like military stories, you know, go and watch the Red Band trailer for Metal Gear: The Phantom Pain. Like, you can pause this. It's cool. Yeah, dude. That'll get an emotional reaction out of you. Whew. One of the best trailers I've ever seen for any entertainment property ever. So good. Yeah, it is true. I think it is true that a lot of American comic books inspire manga artists. But there does tend to be a very big resistance to Western comics in popular Japanese culture. And I'm speaking in generalities, but these are things that, as they've been explained to me by friends of mine who live in Japan. So in some cases, I'm really just regurgitating things that I've been told about it. And also from my experiences of trying to do something that's more manga-like, it's the downside of doing a manga is that Americans tend to think that they should be free on a website somewhere. And that, unfortunately, is a poor business model for the creator. I don't know any comic book creator who's had success with a online webcomic that is like an engaged story, long form story. Like, but comic strips, sure, but if you want to do like a long form story, I feel like it has to be print and it has to be super high quality to get the American audience. To get the Japanese audience, man. You know what sells in Japan from America is like heavy metal, rock and roll art. Like Rat Fink is popular. I don't know if it still is. It was really popular like maybe 8 years ago. Really popular in Japan. Artists who are not trying to do anything that's even remotely Japanese. It tends to not be popular when you try to do something the way they do it. But part of it is also, I think, the work ethic. American comic book artists work hard. They do. I can never deny that. Coming into the game industry from working in comics, yeah. They appreciated my hard work. I was willing to put in those hours. But manga artists, man, manga artists do, like, they're doing an entire book every week. Now, sometimes they have a team. And to be quite honest, I would love to reach a point where I just got a team making CreeD books, or CreeD and Twilight Monk books. That would be amazing. I'd still probably try to do them in color, though. I think Americans really like color comics. I don't know. You guys sound off. If you disagree with what I'm saying, you know, you can duke it out in the chat. Maybe you convince me. I don't know, but I could be wrong about all that stuff. I don't know. I'm only just getting back into comics too, by the way, in terms of making them. I've been working in video games for the last, gosh, how long? When was the last time I did a comic book? The last time I did an officially released comic book was 2002. And it was, CreeD was at Image Comics. And then I got a chance to work on Maximo 3, which got canceled, but I got a job at Capcom. And I was like, hell yeah, man, I want to make some games. And then when Blizzard calls, you don't say no. So it's only now that I'm like, I don't know what to do with my life. I wander around the house like a retired old man. What do I do today? I could garden or play Assassin's Creed, or, oh, all these people want me to make a CreeD comic again. Oh, well, I could do that. They're demanding it? Oh, wow, even better. I'm counting on this to be a massive success. I'm counting on CreeD to save the indie comic book industry. I'm joking. I would like to see a resurgence of comics, though. For artists, for creators, there was a kind of a spirit that was there that I wish we still had, that like spirit of the creator. Like we see it still a lot in indie games, but I hope that we can spark that energy again. That, you know, when I was getting started in comics, it was like, oh man, all I wanted was to have a comic with readers, you know. And then it all compounded, you know, when you get like all these cool licensing deals, and oh yeah, you get to meet all the people who read your book. You're getting letters in the mail about how it affected them, inspired them, whatever. Like, some good memories. I wish that, wish we could spark that excitement again. I think it's still there for a lot of people, but I think there's a lot of doom and gloom too. I want to fight that. I want to do my part to fight the doom and gloom. That's what I'm in. That's what I'm in it for, man. I see the future is a very hopeful place. Gosh, I haven't even talked about what I'm doing here, guys. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, you know, I certainly like what's happening here. Let me group these so I can switch them on and off. Look at that. That's nice. I mean, good, clean read, you know? I like that we're getting a little bit of this. It looks like green in here, like little green clouds, but it's really just gray. You catching that? See how it looks green? Do you know why? Because it's an optical illusion. So you get this pink right here, and it does the complementary color in the shadows if you just do like a gray. So that's really nice. You get this nice contrast of strong dark blues. Got the blues. Got the strong dark blues. Oh yeah, definitely. Like I want to carry that swoosh up here of this like kind of greenish. And I'm just color dabbing. This part of painting is almost mindless for me now. I just do, like once the colors have been decided, I get to almost check out. I'm barely even here right now. It's very relaxing. A day that I just get to paint for 8 hours or something, that's like a vacation. If I've already got the colors worked out. If I'm penciling, I stress out. I'm adding, I think I mentioned it before, I'm adding like a sequence, a 4 or 5 page sequence to the new CreeD book. And I was just roughing it out, and I was so like intense the whole time. It's just like, no, dude, like, is this panel like really communicating this? Like you really have to put a lot of thought into your pencils, but the rendering, I think I've just been doing it for so long that it's, I'll stress out about it right before it goes to print. And that's when I'll start to think, oh man, I could have really put a lot more, I could have suffered a lot more for my art there, couldn't I? Because the more you suffer, the more it shows you care, right? No, that's not true. I don't believe that. What was the title of my first ever comic? My first ever comic that was published? I'm assuming you mean published. So, of course, in high school, I did a lot of these little zine things, and it was just like I'd go to the copy store, like, and I'd scan my drawings and like shrink them down and then like staple them together, you know, to make a comic. I was like 13, and I just wanted to make something that was like a Spider-Man kind of a comic. So I did this little thing called Gallant. It was really bad. And then in middle school, I was like 13, I did a little web comic. There was no web back then. It was a school newspaper comic strip. So I actually got my start doing comic strips in the school newspaper. And it was really neat to see other people. This was the first taste of like me making something, and then people, my classmates going, "Oh, dude, I read your new comic strip." And I was like, "Oh yeah, like that's so cool." And then I had a really dark sense of humor. So it'd be like, this character would just sit on a park bench with a stranger and he'd just like burp for 5 panels. And then the stranger would just get up and walk away, something like that. Or, you know, it's like, I was 13, dude. And what was another one? There was another one where he sits down on a park bench next to this old lady and he just starts smacking his own head. And he's like, "Excuse me, is that noise in my head bothering you?" And I don't know. It was just me being quirky and weird and trying to make people laugh. And so that was technically like my first published thing. And then my first comic that I ever got printed that was like a full standard American superhero style comic was a book called Deadbolt. But it was featured in a book called Hall of Heroes Presents. Hall of Heroes Presents was, it was our company's, I guess you'd say, trial book. Like every new artist would have to do a book in Hall of Heroes Presents. And if that character was popular and that book sold, then that character would get their own series. And so Hall of Heroes Presents #1 sold, I think, a few thousand copies, of which I got $0. And then because the publishing partner that I had, I was 16 at the time, but the publishing partner I was working with told me that he needed the money for other miscellaneous expenses. So I learned a couple of business lessons there, but not well enough because I still did a couple other books with him. Deadbolt got a one-shot issue, and then that did not sell very well. So I abandoned it, and I did CreeD, and CreeD sold very well. I was 17 years old when CreeD was first released. This was the Super Nintendo era, and there were, let's see, I think Bone was a popular comic. She had just come out around the time CreeD came out. And that was right around the time that I met Ethan. I had known Matt Martin before that, so we were always drawing comics together in high school. If you're in high school and you're thinking, "Man, I want to do something in art for a career," don't make excuses. Start making that stuff now. If you're in high school, make it now. There's no reason you can't make indie games in high school. There's no reason you can't make your own comic book in high school. Everything that you want to be as a career, you can start doing now. I did. No problem. It's easy. No, it's not easy. But don't like think to yourself, "I'm too young," or "I'm going to do this later." Like, do it now, man. Do it now. If I were still in high school, nothing on the face of this earth would stop me from releasing my first indie game, whether it's for free or whether it's on iPhone. Nothing on the face of this earth could stop me from releasing my first game or releasing a comic, whatever it was that I wanted to do at that time. And I still live that way. I still believe that. I still live that way. Nothing on this earth is going to stop me. This is so epic with this music. Check this out. Nothing in this earth could stop me making my own dreams come true. Everything I could have ever wanted, I can do today. Does that feel sufficiently epic? Wait till the horns come in. No challenge is too great. No obstacle too tall. No line of code too complex. For we will rise. I'm trying to give like a speech here, but I'm not used to it, so. This is good speech music. It almost feels like Terminator. Or like when Bill Pullman gives a speech in Independence Day. We will not stand idly by. Anyway, it's a good fight song. So yeah, I would say wherever you are in your life, don't let your age stop you. Don't let other people stop you, or the criticisms, whatever it is. Like, you learn by doing, and you get better at it. Pretty much, I'd say the biggest obstacle in most people's way is themselves, talking themselves out of it. And that's pretty much all it boils down to. And I know this, like, that's a hard thing to hear, but like, I remember being employed and like had a steady career, and I was like, I really want to be doing something else. And I remember feeling trapped by it. Everybody around me telling me like, just maybe it was that I was projecting a little bit, but I accepted that I couldn't do it. And it was me accepting that I couldn't do it. And then it was almost like something that you would consider to be bad fortune happened. And then I lost that really good paying gig and that steady gig. And it ended up being the greatest thing that ever fucking happened to me in my life. I went off and did my own thing. And it turns out, man, I could have been doing that the whole time. I was stopping myself. So I didn't mean for this to be a super like dramatic episode, but and yeah, like to be clear, I didn't grow up in an environment where I could, let's just say money was an issue for me as a kid. I didn't grow up in an environment where my future was certain. And I certainly didn't have the support that a lot of other YouTube artists get from their parents, like buying them Cintiqs, or like, I had none of that. I had to mow lawns. So that I could afford to go out and buy paper to draw my comic on. And buy ink and copies, Like, I grew up extremely poor. So poor that the fishbowl froze one night. It was so cold. We didn't have any electricity. So, like, no stranger to that. So it was really hard to walk away from a good paying job to take a risk on an art career, My first jobs, like, I worked in fast food while I was drawing my comic, by the way. So don't give me excuses, man. No excuses. Why, when I was a kid, let me tell you, I worked 2 jobs when I drew my comic. It's true. I did. I worked at a fast food place. I don't know if it still exists. You guys can tell me. Is there such thing as Penguin Point anymore? My first fast food job was at Penguin Point. Well, technically my first job ever. I mowed lawns around the neighborhood for $20 a lawn. And it'd take me all day. I'd work all day for $20 so that I could buy a Nintendo game or buy paper for drawing my comic. 13, 14 years old. When I was 16, I had already published my first comic, but I needed money. I wasn't getting paid for my comics. My publishing partner wasn't cutting me in on the profit. So I had to work at a fast food place. I worked at Penguin Point, flipping burgers, man. I actually got chewed out by the boss one night because I messed up. And I had to go and find another job, and I went and worked at a grocery store for a little while. And I worked at a fruit market, like a farmer's market, up until I was 17. When CreeD came out, I was still working there. So that's why there are characters in CreeD that are sort of parodies of, like, my boss at the farmer's market. Does the music fit the talk? Yeah, so dramatic. Yeah. So I'm just doing like a blending thing here, by the way. This is my, if you guys don't know, somebody's going to ask. So this is just my watercolory brush. And what's nice about it is it blends very well, but you get these kind of edges on things. So you see how it kind of like gets a little thick around the edges? So to kind of smooth that out a little bit more, I color dab and then I smear. And it's probably not the most efficient way to do it, but it's kind of zen. So I'm just going to do it. And I'm adding in like a lot of little, I'm going to get some nooks and crannies in here, little highlights. This is just stone, rubble, as the void is ripping through this whole area. I might draw in more chunks, just so it feels like it's just more full. Yeah, that's looking good. I feel like that's an improvement. I feel like it looks nice. We're losing a little bit of that feeling like it's all kind of going down to this central area, though. So maybe I know what it is. Maybe what I need is like a darken layer, and then check this shit out. Watch. Damn, we're gonna hit this with some airbrush. And I'm gonna do a multiply layer. I don't usually do multiply layers, but because it gets too dark too fast. But I really want to make sure that the lightest area is on him. I'll have to erase out around my word balloons, but I also don't really care much for the pink. I might have to do an adjustment. There's like a lot of blue and pink in this one. I feel like it's kind of neat up here. You know what I could do? Let's do like a, should we do a color dodge? A little bit of color dodge on here to, like, that's kind of nice, right? Ooh, I like that. Oh, yeah. It's subtle, but man, juicy. And then get a little bit of that on him down here. You know, I want that like a little bit. I can see it in my head. I want a little bit of that blue, like on his leg. Ooh, you know, huh? Ooh, no. I don't know what that sound was. It's like, that's my indecisive noise. Let's see. Lighten it. Yeah, something like, no, something like that. Yeah, what is that? What is that? That's a hard light layer. Okay, okay. All right. I like where you're going with this. Look at that. We're getting some atmospheric. Fuck yeah. Noise. So that's a combination of color dodge and a hard light. I rather like how it's knocking out some of the line art. But I do feel like, you know what, that it denotes that there's this blue light in the scene. So we're going to want to bounce that off of some other surfaces. Like, for instance, if that's really like a light blue back there, I mean, we could add a little bit of just a little bit of an edge light to this. It's kind of interesting. When I'm doing these live streams, I don't often think, if I'm not doing a live stream, I don't often think too much about what I'm doing. It's just like, this is sort of happening in my brain. So doing it live, I'm kind of seeing how can I explain what I'm sort of envisioning as it's happening. Of course, you got to do a little bit of cleanup when you do those kind of layer effects, things like that. Yeah, we're doing all right. We're doing all right here. Maybe bring out some of these edges with that blue, although it's technically back here. I don't want to draw a lot of attention to this. So one of the things to keep in mind is like, if I start doing like details coming through here, it's going to draw a lot of attention to that area. So I might want to just kind of keep that a little bit more simple. I do think that his shirt isn't necessarily coming across as red, so I might want to go in, and it's going to get a little bit of blue on it. So it's almost going to come out as purple, which I hate, but well, let's see what we can do. If I do a darken layer, if I do it as a darken layer, I think that we can do this. This is one of my favorite Metal Gear songs, by the way. This is the Warhead Storage. There's a like a 3-hour version of this that you can leave on. Yeah, it's a good one. So I'm not pressing very hard, so we're actually getting a pretty good amount of that red coming through. And then I think as long as it's got the blue on the shadow side, I think we're good. I think it'll still come across as like a red shirt. I'm trying to hit a lot of the shadows with that kind of the fill light, that blue. Yeah, I kind of think even his face should be. Oh, you know, this is one of those things you got to pay attention to, by the way. When you're doing a character and then suddenly he's like missing a thing that he, like a bracelet he was wearing. Yeah, you got to watch out for that kind of stuff. I'm going to have to do a pass on this whole book before I wrap it up. Like, and by the way, it'll be done in the next couple of weeks, I think. But I'm going to have to do a pass towards the end to just make sure I don't forget anything. Like character costume changes. Another reason to keep your characters somewhat not too complicated. I was talking to my friend EVS. He was saying that every time he draws his character, he spends like 6 or 7 hours on it. Just every panel. Like, it must be nice. He's rich. He can spend as long as he wants on his panels. It's nice to have no budget restrictions. Well, I don't know. After CreeD makes $10 million and gets a film deal, then maybe I'll start doing that too. I'll make a lot more complicated design for him. Maybe give him like some kind of a symbiotic metal suit or something. No. There was a time when CreeD had a little metal suit when I was still trying to figure out what the book was going to be about, because I was still not sure if I wanted to get away from doing a superhero kind of a book. You can see it, I think, in the Omnichronos collection. I posted a bunch of sketches in that. There was a CreeD collection that was out. I think you can still get it on Amazon. All right, I'm doing good. Good progress. I'm feeling good about this. It's got a nice blue kind of a thing coming in here. Ooh, you know what though? These lines are too dark. This is how my brain works, dudes. So I'm gonna make a lighten layer. I just dance around until I find things that are wrong and broken. Now I don't want it to be like super light. I want it to just be a little bit lighter. So I might pick like a dark blue. I want to make sure that it's not competing with my line art or my characters, because I want them to stand out. And if their line art is black, then they will. As long as the line art on these is not so dark. And that'll push this back just a little bit. Also contrast. So because this is kind of like a hard edge on this, it's going to stand out. But if I soften that, it won't stand out as much. I think this song is from, is it Guns of the Patriots? I think is this Mantis's updated theme? I kind of got to know. Oh, it's Mantis's hymn. So yeah. Psycho Mantis. I'm going to do a lot more little giblets, doodads, debris. But we want to make sure on that Lighten layer, this is, before I get too distracted, let's make sure that we've sufficiently pushed back those lines. Yeah, so I'm basically living in the 90s again, guys. I'm drawing CreeD and I'm playing Metal Gear on PlayStation 1 every day. I'm literally like living in the 90s, but with all the benefits of modern. Like I'm doing it all on iPads and MacBook Pros. So I'm in a weird time machine right now, man. I should probably like pop on some maybe Pearl Jam music. Not on stream, but you know what I'm saying? This is a good moody track. Metal Gear was one of the reasons why I wanted to work in video games. When I played it, I remember thinking, nothing will stop me from working in games. And then I moved to Los Angeles and I worked in fashion for a little while. And I met some game developers in Los Angeles and they told me, yeah, we don't hire comic book people in the game industry. And I thought that was unfair, to say the least. But when somebody tells me I can't do something, I just do it. I'm going to fight them on it and make it happen. And it's not entirely how easy. It wasn't like I just willed it into existence. But certainly kept myself open to the opportunities and networking and always being open to the universe. Things happen to lead me to be able to do it. So that's not bad, right? Look at that. I mean, it popped it out a good amount. When we look at the original and then we look at how nice of a clean read we get, it looks less muddy. There's still some, I think, like I could add a little bit more shadow. Where's my darken layer? Here we go. I think I could add a little bit more shadow to give her just a little bit more depth, you know? Yeah. So I'm doing the. I have a question for you guys. Maybe you can help me to make some decisions here. I'm going to be doing a live stream when we launch the Indiegogo campaign. I'm going to be doing a live stream on Comic Artist Pro Secrets. That's EVS's channel. He's publishing the book, so it's appropriate. I'm wondering, I can't simultaneously stream on my own channel, but I do want to do something special. I want to do something, so I don't know, should I do a live stream the next day, like on my own channel? Because I'm doing one the day before on mine. That'll be next Saturday. I'm going to be streaming on mine, and then Sunday is the 14th. So trying to figure out, like, what is the best way to raise awareness for the book. I'm really going to appreciate any help that you guys have if I'm tweeting about it or things like that. I mean, what if we could just hang out and do these all the time? What if we could do live stream drawings while we're making comics? That would be great. I could be doing this like every day. I'd say that would be pretty darn cool. You could help me make that happen. So I'm open for, ideas. Why didn't they usually hire comic book artists? Part of it I think is because they weren't doing superhero type of stuff, and it's hard to imagine that comic book artists could do what they needed. Some of the answers that I got were things like that, and it's a very different way of thinking. Like, for instance, back then, there was no such thing as they had concept artists, but mostly just in film, and game development didn't have a role. When I started working as a concept artist, there was nobody in the industry that was saying this is how it's done. In fact, the only concept artist I had ever heard of were the two that I never shut up about, Akihiko Yoshida and Yoji Shinkawa. And then I find out way later what they do isn't even necessarily concept art. It's like high concept sketches, high concept designs in the case of Yoji Shinkawa, illustration in the case of Akihiko Yoshida. So it wasn't unreasonable that they'd be like, well, no, we want a 3D modeler who can paint to do our concepts, because that's, technically speaking, the only person who would know what kind of designs they need, somebody who's building the models, and oftentimes, with the smaller studios, the character modeler was the guy who designed the concept. Like, look it up. The guy who built the first Tomb Raider character model, I believe, was the concept artist. I think the same is true with Jack and Daxter. It's like, back then it was just happened to be the guy who could draw, and there may have been a few exceptions, but it was also kind of like the early days of information on the internet. So it wasn't like you could go online and find jobs for concept artists. It really didn't. They were very rare, hard to come by, and there were only a handful of studios that would hire concept guys. So, and then of course they wanted somebody who'd already shipped a game. You guys know that challenge. Like, I get emails from people all the time saying, "How do I get experience?" Me personally, at that time, while I was working in comics, I was also doing concept art for mods and things. Nothing that ever got made, but I was trying to network with video game developers. It happened to be that somebody was, there was a guy who was a fan of my comic book work on Ghost Rider, and he also ran an indie game studio, and he wanted to meet me. And then in the interview, he found out that I loved games, and he's like, "Hey, why don't you come work for me?" And that's why I did pixel art for indie games in 2002. That was really kind of my first video game gig. I'm going to set this layer to darken, and then I'm going to really separate out a couple of elements here, like this guy. Just give him another layer of shadow here so that he really separates from the background a bit more. But I don't want him to stand out too much, All right. That looks good. I like that. Feels like this should be separated too. Use some value contrast to pop her out just a little bit more. There we go. Nice. Nice. We need some debris up here. Look at all this empty space. I didn't want to put a word balloon up here though, because the flow, it really kind of goes like this. You can see it, like the flow definitely goes like that.
That face that is usually covered by
what is this?
Has finally made
it's an ad? I'm not even signed in? That's weird. Sorry, guys. I didn't realize, I think I got signed out of YouTube. Yeah, I'm not supposed to get ads on there. Okay, so yeah, we're doing good. You know, I think I could add a little bit of depth to here. I do one of my lighten or normal layer. Yeah, oh dude, this is gonna be juicy. Look at this subtlety. It's not bright, it's not highlighted. It's subtle. Subtle, sort of secondary details. So you don't notice them right away, but they add like this implication there's a light coming from that bottom right. I want to add more debris too. This song always gives me the feels. It's not the kind of thing I would listen to, but context, you know? Great track. Moody. Very bold to use something like this. It's not in English. It's called The Best Is Yet to Come. Classic Metal Gear track. Put a big crack here. This is a standard. I'm going to show you a little World of Warcraft trick. Look at this. See that? Bam. Suddenly it's got a little chunky divot in it. Like every texture in World of Warcraft has this. Put in another chunky crack here. Little implied detail through the messy brush strokes. I was looking at Ashley Wood's Metal Gear art and I was like, man, it's so loose, but it's like well controlled detail. Like this blend between chaos and order. Beautiful. I loved his take on Metal Gear. Some of these lines are just too thick. I don't know if you noticed that. I'm like going through and like thinning out the lines. So the original CreeD imaginary book was meant to be like a webcomic. So it wasn't meant to be normal, printed at normal size. And so like that's a lot of what I have to fix, because this new CreeD books 1 and 2, Reimaginary 1 and 2 are going to be standard comic book size in terms of the dimensions, but they're going to be 48 pages, obviously. But the vertical height and width are standard. So you can put it in your comic box. When I do all of my books that standard size for the sake of consistency, you could put these right next to your original CreeD books. More debris. All right, we'll do a little bit more cleanup later, I think. Just some more chunks off in the distance. I'm going to take a little bit of brief time to just hang out with you guys in chat on camera here in a minute. All right, I think, yeah, that's a good place to leave this page for now. I can go in and add a bit more detail. Oh, wait, before I do, watch this. Watch this. We're going to do it on just the normal layer. Hit that with the red. Actually, let's go a little bit more saturated so he really pops out. Boom. All right. That's not working. Hold on. Give me a sec. Command U will allow me to change it out. It's going to be a little bit more purple, more saturated. Let's lighten it just a little. That's a little better. Yeah, like that. That's going to make him super, like, just really pop out. Look at that. Bam. Amidst all of this. Yeah, because everything is like kind of a cool color, but he's got that really bright, saturated red. I don't know why I'm feeling like I want some little glowies for that magical feel. Just feeling it, like energy in the air. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna maybe even go in and like kind of add a little bit of subtle cloud edges. I got lost in this again. More glowies. It gives it a little bit of, just like a little bit of a magical feel. I really like this cloud back here. It's got like this warm light coming in from that side, a little cool light coming in from the other side. Yeah, I like what's happening with this page. It's good. I might have to get a little bit more yellow with instead of pinks, but we'll see. Oh, let's get some glowies down here too. Keep them real small though. The last thing you want is like really big dots, you know, that draw too much attention to themselves. Maybe they're just like little glowworms or fireflies or something, or just magical dust in the air. It could go nuts and like, no, that's not the right brush. I've got a spatter brush. Is this it? Yeah. That's too much. Too much, man. Oh, that's not bad. Back it off a little though. I don't want it to look messy though, you know? I think that's okay. A natural look that isn't messy. I think that's the goal. Somewhat of like a natural feel that isn't super messy. So you just got these very subtle hints of like a speck. What I used to do is take a toothbrush and then dip a little bit of ink onto the toothbrush and then spatter it across the page. Back in my early comic days. Ooh, yeah, we got this halftone brush too. This is kind of nice. I don't know. Do we want to mess with that though? You know, I like how it is. I'm not going to touch it. Okay. I'm going to clean up those word balloons when I do the final pass. And all right, let's fade out the music here. Let's hang out for a bit. I didn't do any kind of a fade on that at all. So anyway, dudes, okay. So let's hang out for a bit. I got a couple of minutes before I eat some dinner here. We're at 1 hour and 50 minutes. So let's do like 10 minutes of just chatting. I got a new drawing. Did you see that? Got a new drawing up on the wall. That's, whoops. There we go. That's a Twilight Monk piece that I did in ink and gouache. I thought, why do I have like, I have a bunch of artwork of other things on there. I should have like CreeD up there or Twilight Monk or something behind me. What am I promoting here? I don't know. So yeah, let's check out some of the questions here. DM Foe, what do you think about Death Stranding? So, wow, that's a can of worms. Death Stranding, I thought, really cool world. Okay, so there's multiple things. First of all, when I'm playing Death Stranding, I just keep thinking I want Metal Gear, and that's sad. I hate to say that, but I just keep thinking, like, whenever I come up on like this, some awesome looking tower or satellite dish or something, I keep thinking, oh man, like I want to like take out guards. I want to sneak in. I want to like do an infiltration mission. I keep thinking of how beautiful and amazing a new Phantom Pain sequel would be. So, but Death Stranding itself, aside from some confusing cutscenes, I think is a really good game. I never played a game that made me feel like I was fighting the environment so much. It's on par, I'd say, with, well, I don't want to say, I do think it did a lot of innovative things, and it is a divisive game. But personally, like I do still feel, I stand by the fact that I do still wish that we could just get Kojima to make more Metal Gear. Just do whatever. You know what? A Metal Gear game where you're traversing through the snow and like trying to hide in like rubble that's falling and like snow that's like blowing over you, and like get the appropriate gear so that you can perform the mission up in the mountain. Like that would be amazing. But like I wasn't a big fan of the physics of how the vehicles handled over the land, like especially after playing something like Mud Runner. If you're curious what I'm talking about, man, like check out Mud Runner or Snow Runner. Amazing physics-based environment navigation kind of a game. Can be frustrating at times, but so can Death Stranding. And I also kind of felt like the vehicles, I know, like you have to look at the function, and they serve their function as a delivery vehicle, but it was like, don't show us a semi if we can't drive it. That frustrated me. Let us build roads where we want to. That would have been more fun. And then also a couple other things, the vehicles themselves, I would have liked to seen awesome military trucks and things like that, navigating through those kind of environments. That would have been exciting. That would have been really fun, I think. That said, not displeased with the game. I got a platinum trophy in Death Stranding. I platinum every Kojima game. I'm a nut for this stuff. So don't take that to mean that in any way I would undo Death Stranding. It's cool. I do like it. Yeah. I just kind of kept looking for, I would have wanted to see some of those elements, but I don't like to ever make excuses for game developers. And it's like, but there were some things that felt like they were not yet fully ironed out about that one. And maybe it's the kind of thing where with a sequel, we'd get that. But like you got the what are they called? The mules or whatever? The people that they've got camps. And those are like your hostiles who are stealing all your stuff whenever you collect stuff. And it's like, well, I wanted to sneak in and like choke them out. And, I wanted to do some Metal Gear sneaking around, but you can't, like, because you're carrying all this stuff. And I get though that there is nothing else like it. So like, you can't say that it's boring. Well, some people could say that, I guess, if you're talking like, in terms of action, it's not an action game. Definitely not. But, yeah. Joshua Wall says it's super cool conceptually, but boring to play. At times, but I like a slower pace. Like I like stealth games. I like slow paced stealth games where you're really looking at your environment and going like, how do I tackle this? You know, like what are the patterns? In the case of Death Stranding, you're looking at the environment, and the environment is like an enemy that you're sneaking through and you're stealthing through, in the sense that you know, you're watching out for these BTs, these like ghostly characters. They're part of the environment in a sense. They're a hazard in the environment. And so like you've got to be prepared for all these situations, and you do have to think on the fly. But if you've prepared very well, it goes smoothly. And I did really like that aspect of the game. It really forced you to think strategically, and I think that was probably the most fun part about that game. Yeah. Minja says, I hope you're doing well and staying healthy. Thanks, man. I do appreciate that. These days, you never know what's going on. But I've had like a weird thing where I was kind of low energy for the last couple. I'm taking naps like an old man, basically. I don't know what's going on with me. Feel like I had a sore throat a couple of days ago. I hope it's nothing. Yeah, you don't want to worry myself about it. But maybe just not getting enough sleep, though. You know, I know that's really important right now. Wilson says, how do you manage the conversion of colors for printing, or do you make your work in CMYK format? No, I do it all in RGB, and then you can, I use InDesign, and I believe you can just export into whatever color format. Mostly I'm just going to be handing over, you know, in this case, well, when I do my own printing, the print on demand service that I use, they don't even care. You just send it in RGB, actually, and it prints okay. So if you got my World of Twilight Monk art book, you know, you'll know it turned out okay, I thought, you know. When you were in fashion, did you design a lot of flannel shirts? No. I designed, let's see, what are my notable fashion designs? I mostly designed characters that went onto clothes for Janko. But I also designed, there was a brief moment when the front knee patch, the square front knee patch was in fashion. That was based on a lot of my designs at Janko. I don't want to take credit for a fashion movement, but let's just say, I'd been doing that since 97. And then suddenly the company I'm working for is the -- jeans company, and everybody's wearing those kind of pants. Mm-hmm. I also designed a low fly button pants for girls. That might have been the one that got me fired. It was the button was just very low. So the pants hung open. I don't want to go into it. You'll have to use your imagination. It was cool. Let's see. Just stream all day. You know what? That would be cool if my comics do well enough. Yeah, I'll stream every day, every weekday. I believe this is in response to some ideas for promoting the Indiegogo. Maybe I could do a Q&A stream the next day with giveaways. I don't know what I would give away. I have box of jelly beans. Could be, it's empty. No, why is that there? It's a holiday. So in order to try to control my jelly bean addiction, my wife got me these little boxes. So you can only fit like one serving of Jelly Bellies in these. I just refilled it and kept eating. now it's sitting here almost as like evidence of my failure to control my Jelly Belly addiction amidst my coffee mugs. And usually my desk is so tidy, I don't know why that's still sitting up here. I've been working in the living room a lot lately. Oh, hey, here's an interesting question. Flicks by Cody. I finished Twilight Monk books 1 and 2. Are you working on book 3? Book 3 was almost done. I just never released it. I worked with Danny Kong on it, and we got like almost all the way done because it's he's about to fight Gray and big showdown, and then I just didn't finish it because I got a job at Riot Games, and I went to work on League of Legends, and it was like, hey, keep making this webcomic, or go and work on the #1 game in the world and redesign the environment for that. And it was like, I love Twilight Monk, but kind of like making stuff that makes the bills. You know what I'm saying? So book 3. Hey, here's my strategy: is if CreeD does well, if my comics do well enough, I want to bring back Twilight Monk as well, and that means probably like some kind of a full color remaster of Twilight Monk as well. That would be my ideal scenario. And then complete that story. And then if you're curious though, and if you want more Twilight Monk, read Secrets of Kung Fulio, which is right here. This is a 50,000 word novel with illustrations throughout. So it's got a lot of artwork. I talk about this on every stream. So if you guys are sick of it, you're just going to have to deal with me talking about, I'm going to have to, look, I gotta sell my books, man. Check this out. You can get this on Amazon in paperback, or you can get the Kindle edition. There's over 70 drawings in here by myself and Danny. The story takes place before the comics, so it gives you a chance to ramp up to that. It's part 1 of 2. The second part, Return of the Ancients, is coming out in the next couple of months. Also, you might consider, a lot of people don't know about this, but this is the World of Twilight Monk art book. And this is 90 pages, full color paintings. God, what if I could do a whole book that looks like this, dudes? Like a comic. That's kind of what we were talking about earlier in this video stream. But the amount of workload, it's like I would have to be making enough from this to justify not working on some of the big games that I'm working on. And that would be hard to do because I like working on those games. I like the people that I work with. But yeah, it's all like environments and like backgrounds and side characters and side stories. And then it's got a cover gallery in the back. I don't want to show off too much. Just check it out. This one's World of Twilight Monk. You can get that on Amazon. So yeah, these two, if you need a Twilight Monk fix, get those 2 books, man. I was doing signed sketch editions for Secrets of Kung Fulio over on my eBay store as well. I think that's still up there. I don't know. Okay. Penta wants to know, what's your favorite Metal Gear Solid game? Okay. This is it's a tricky question because I love David Hayter, but Phantom Pain is the best Metal Gear. Phantom Pain is the most replayable, the most advanced. You got your daytime, nighttime. You got weather effects. It's the ultimate stealth simulator. Ultimate stealth simulator with drivable vehicles. Forget it. Phantom Pain, hands down. The problem is, I like Kiefer Sutherland, but he's no David Hayter. And so it doesn't feel like Metal Gear. And I feel like if Konami wanted to print money, you could sell me a $10 voice pack. Like just say, hey, here's a DLC that lets you play as David Hayter redoing all of Kiefer Sutherland's lines. You got me. You got me, buddy. But I'm a nut. I'll buy a PlayStation just to play a Metal Gear game. My next comic is probably a sci-fi military book, by the way, because I'm a junkie for this stuff. Next up is obviously going to be Snake Eater. Snake Eater was the best story across the board. But I do love this is such a tough question, because the very first one, if you've been watching my playthrough, the very first one is that was my number one for 20 years until Phantom Pain came out. Any general advice for a high schooler wanting to go into concept art? Yeah, I talked about this a little bit previously. One, buy my workshop. No, I do make workshops that are going to teach you what concept art is versus illustration. And unfortunately, this is not commonly discussed. It's something that most other YouTube concept artists might not talk about. I mean, but I guess I would say if you don't want to do that, just find out that difference between what concept art is and illustration is for game development. And maybe the best way to do it, and I think the best advice I could give you, is to start making indie games with people, or start making art assets for games on the Steam Workshop with 3D modelers. Start partnering with 3D modelers and finding out what they need. And hopefully they'll tell you, you'll be able to tune a portfolio more towards concept art than illustration, because just doing illustration, you might find yourself, now some people they prefer illustration, mind you, and you will have to be a good illustrator, but the best way to learn something is to do it. So yeah, I'm going to suggest that you start making games, or start making, something like your own art books that have like turnarounds of characters and world building and interconnected story between characters, and an interconnected story between the way a character is designed and how they're dressed with the world and the environment that they're challenged with, that they have to survive in. We think about those things. So. Ned keeps asking this question, and he's getting very frustrated and has probably already downvoted and unsubscribed from me 5 times over. Ned, environments and prop concepts are less stressful than doing character concepts. I answered in the comments. I answered you. But I'll tell it to you here for everybody, because you might not have read it. When you're designing a main character of a game, everybody has an idea of what that character is supposed to look like. So if you're designing the new Demon Hunter for Diablo 4 or whatever, or the new class or whatever, everybody on the team is going to go, no, it should look like this. No, it should look like that. And there are a lot of people who have an opinion on what that should be. If you're designing the boats that go in the docks out by the village in Act 3, nobody is going to come down on you for your designs. You can get creative as hell and you can make that shine. So your first or second design will probably go through. But as soon as you start saying, hey, I want to design the main boss for the game, you've got everybody that you're competing with, because not only that, to put it frankly, I mean, you're competing. And a lot of times you're going to find people that are like, hey, I should be the concept artist. And they're going to go, I want to be the guy who gets to design the famous big boss of the game, big boss. And so you're going to butt heads, and there's a lot more politics involved in that. But if you're doing the props that fit into, the village over in, as I said, like in Act 3 or whatever, in Act 2, if you're the person who's designing the signage, and you're the person who's designing the castles in the distance, they're not the primary boss fight area, and they're not the main attraction, well, then you're going to have a lot less people fighting you on your designs, and you get to really do some cool storytelling. I had the most fun designing the sewers of Diablo 3. The sewers we did it in 2 weeks. But when you talk about Zoltan Kuhl, that was months of designing Zoltan Kuhl. And then the character was another month, because everybody had an idea of what Zoltan Kuhl should look like. And so a lot of other people would have wanted to get my opportunity to design that character. And so it's a lot less competitive. Anytime you do something that's a lot less competitive, you're going to have a lot less stress. Competition is going to mean a stressful position. I'm reading through the chat here, looking for a good question. We're just going to do one more question because we're at 2 hours and 10 minutes, and I'm getting hungry. You guys know I got a 2-hour battery life, man, for streams. Let's see. Vicky Mooley says, how would you structure a body when you're drawing? Vicky, you got to take my easy art lessons, man. In my easy art lessons, the volumes, it's like lessons 1 through 20. I think in lessons 10 through 15, you're going to learn how to pose a body and you're going to learn how to put a body into perspective. And also how to draw from reference. I go through several different lessons on that. And you can check out my Twitter for testimonials of like seeing how people are growing from watching those. Goldschlager asks if I'm to blame for Diablo resembling WoW. Well, I certainly got blamed. But the art director hired me specifically for that purpose. Now, I think it was a good choice. Diablo 3 will live forever. The art style will not fade because it's not a photorealistic art style. And before I finish this, and this is going to already upset a lot of people in the comments. So before I lose all of my subscribers because I just said that out loud, I'm going to probably take off, dudes. I'm proud of the work I did on Diablo 3, by the way, even if some people are upset with me about it. It's what I do. And I'm happy to make people who like my work happy. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. I really enjoy doing these live drawing sessions with you. And I hope that we can do a lot more of them. I'm doing them every day or every Saturday at the same time, every Saturday to be very specific. I always still have my general art videos up on Wednesdays. So if you have art questions or questions about an art career in art, or getting your business started around your art, please drop those in the comments of this video, not in the live chat, but in the comments. If I didn't get your question, there was a lot that I didn't see because I was drawing. And again, I really appreciate your patience with me on this to just try to, get my own work done while still hanging out with you guys and talking games and talking movies and talking entertainment. It's a lot of fun. And I'm going to try to also do a little bit of a segment at the end like I did this time where we can just chat and answer a couple of questions. Hey, man, like I said, if you can help me make this CreeD thing huge, and I could do something like this a lot more frequently. So help me to make that happen on February 14th. All right, dudes, thank you so much. Thank you, all of you, for stopping by. I really do love seeing you here, and I'll catch you in, I'll see you guys on, I got Metal Gear videos coming up on Monday or Tuesday. And then I'll see you for an art video on Wednesday, and then I'll see you on another live stream Saturday. And then don't forget on as a Comic Artist Pro Secrets on YouTube on next Sunday, we're going to be doing that launch. So I don't know who's going to stop by. It'll be fun. But we'll see you then. All right. Ciao.